Next guest is no stranger to controversy. He's the world's #1 skeptic. He's made a living out of exposing frauds and charlatans who claim they have psychic ability, and he's managed to upset the odd person along the way. People like Don Lane. Have a look at this.
I'm not defending you, Rigella. What I am defending is you. You come over here with this big reputation. You give us a lot of lip service about all this stuff that you're going to prove. You go against a lady like Doris Stokes who never harmed anybody in her whole life, and you call her a charlatan and a fake.
You know a great deal about it.
Yes, I do. You said that she was a liar on the radio. You called her a liar.
No.
And that woman wouldn't lie to anybody. And I don't know whether she's right or wrong, but she wouldn't lie to anybody. And we're going for a commercial break, and you can piss off.
Joe, Don. Yes, he was the mastermind behind the famous Carlos hoax in 1988. Mr. Randi, not Don, that is. George Negus still has the wet spot on his coat for that, and many others still smart from the memories of accepting the hoax hook, line, and sinker. His name is, of course, James Randi, and he joins us from Melbourne, where he's a guest of the Australian Skeptics Association, and here in the studio to potentially lock horns with him is the president of the Australian Psychics, Simon Turnbull. How are you, Simon? Welcome along. Mr. Randi, I'm going to start with you, sir. Uri Geller is, I guess, your most celebrated outing, as you call it, the person who, the exposure that you've had to go at most. What is it about Uri Geller that really gets up your nose?
Well, he was the first one that came to my attention, Richard. That is, the first one with a really international profile, and he became the psychic superstar, more or less, of the century. That situation has somewhat changed now. He's essentially in retirement, living in England, from what I understand, and he's now in the business of suing me and many other people and other publishers and trying to, I guess, make a living doing that.
Do you take credit for slowing down his activity somewhat?
Well, let's just say that my attentions to his career were not welcome. I think I can put it that way, somewhat mildly perhaps, but I think it's true.
So what was it that you disliked most? Just that he was basically, as you see it, doing magic and not calling it magic?
Well, the case is this, and I can say this legally quite safely. Perhaps Mr. Geller does have divine powers. Perhaps he does have some sort of supernatural ability that makes him able to soften metal. If he's doing his spoon-bending trick that way, then I can only say that he's doing it the hard way.
How would you suggest he do it?
I do it by trickery, and perhaps with enough attention to the problem, he might be able to do it by trickery too.
Simon, in our studio here, you're a friend of Uri Geller's. I gather you're not too impressed with Mr. Randi and what he has to say.
No, because he's been making a living out of being a charlatan, a fraud, the things he's accusing psychics of.
Does Uri Geller have psychic powers, supernatural
Absolutely,
powers?
I've seen it myself.
How do you know?
Well, I've been this closer. I wasn't in bed with him.
Not a bit. James Randi, what do you say? Have you been that close to Uri Geller? Have you seen for yourself that he is a fraud, as you say?
Well, I'll just put it this way. We have a rather large collection of videotapes of Mr. Geller, some of which have been presented to the official organization in the United States of magicians, and they're coming down with their decision very shortly. From what I hear, their decision agrees with mine that it is most probably a form of trickery rather than divine powers, but again, that's in the hands of the judges at the moment.
Most probably or definitely? Surely you're going out on a limb if you're not 100% certain that this man is in fact telling fibs.
I know what I'm 100% certain of, Richard, but you have to be very careful what you say legally. You can be sued for some things, even if they're true.
Okay. Simon, is there it?
Well, this gentleman here, less than 2 weeks ago, was judged by a U.S. federal jury as being a liar. And we have documented evidence of that.
Well, that is strictly untrue.
Well, here it's on the screen, James.
Yes, indeed. I'm glad you have it. You managed to get this clipping that's been circulated all over the world. How clever of you.
Well, 5,000 people in Baltimore have read it, James.
That's right. It was in the Baltimore Sun.
And
that's correct.
Now Australians can see it, too.
How much money did they award the man that I defamed?
They awarded Uri $4,500 in Japan in March this year.
That's not my question.
And you have to pay Uri $4,500 for another court case you lost in Japan for insulting him in Japan.
That's not my question.
By saying that there was a scientist.
That's not my question.
There was a scientist, James, that killed himself out of shame.
I did not say that, no.
Out of shame. You said that.
No, I did not.
You said that. We've got the stuff here.
No, you
out of
believe in your
shame.
master.
Out of shame, right?
out of shame.
You have chosen to believe
you
your master,
said
Mr.
that
Geller,
the scientist
and you
killed
are
himself
believing
out of
an
shame
untruth.
because you debunked Uri Geller.
No, you're not listening
That's
to what I'm
what you
saying.
said, James.
First of all, would you answer my previous question? Let's take them one at a time,
And they
shall we?
took you to court and you lost.
Let's try the questions one at a time. Have you an answer?
There's
to
only
my
one question. You're a liar.
Let's have an answer to my question.
What question?
The question was, how much did they award the gentleman that they said I defamed in Baltimore?
If I were you, I wouldn't go into that
Well,
court
you won't
case.
answer the question.
Because
Richard,
I've got the rest
I'll
of
give
it
you
here,
the
and I'm
answer
sure
to
you
the
don't want
question.
Australia
Since
to
this
hear that.
gentleman seems unable to understand a simple question,
All right.
they gave him 0 for
I'm
it.
going to ask you a question.
Yes.
What was
I
on
will
the,
answer
what
your
was on the
question,
tape?
incidentally.
What was on the tape that was heard in court? I'd like to know what was on the tape. I haven't heard it.
Well, there were several
Your
tapes.
solicitors rang this morning and said, do I have a tape? I haven't heard it. What was on the tape? Tell the whole of Australia what was on the
Which
tape.
tape are you speaking of? There were several tapes played in court.
Well, there's only one. You know what
There
one
were
it is.
3 tapes that were played in the court.
There's only one, and you know what one it is.
I know which one you're referring to. Would
Right.
you like to tell us what it's all about?
You tell us.
All right, I will. This is something which, because the postal inspectors in the United States are investigating persons already named for the blackmail attempt that was made on me years ago, because that is currently under investigation, you know very well, sir, that I am not allowed to mention that. If I do, I compromise myself.
It's up to you.
Okay.
No, it
I just
isn't.
I just wanted
It's up
to
my
give you the
legal
chance.
advisors.
Gentlemen, I think I'm glad you two aren't in the same studio.
I wish we were.
I wish we were too.
It's compelling stuff watching you two sparring off against each other. Mr. Randi, I'm sure there are some people, certainly at home in our television audience, but
Yes.
maybe in the studio audience, who have had some experience of ESP or supernatural powers.
They may believe that.